I think we can all agree that gothic themed video games are absolutely badass. You can take literally any game and slap some goth juice into it and it would turn out to be a pretty badass game. Maybe not a successful game, but still pretty badass. Take this game for example. Sprinkle in some of that gothic juice and you have something that's pretty cool, because the gothic theme is basically MSG but for video games. There's many other more examples of video games that follow that exact same logic. It doesn't even matter if it's an old school side scroller, or a platformer, or a hack and slash game. Although Devil May Cry would still be pretty badass no matter what, Dark Souls isn't even safe from this video game MSG, or even... Mario Kart? Nightmare Kart, used to be known as Bloodborne Kart, well, the community still calls it that, is basically a fan-made kart game that's heavily inspired by Bloodborne. I mean, who wouldn't be inspired by Bloodborne? That shit was amazing. Nightmare Kart was originally revealed as an April Fool's prank from the creators of Bloodborne PSX, the fan-made Bloodborne PlayStation 1 remake. And if you haven't guessed it already, Nightmare Kart was also made by the same people who made the Bloodborne remake. The game was masterminded by LW Media, also known as the Lilith Walther, along with some super talented individuals and the support of some super generous patrons. The last time I actually heard about Nightmare Kart was actually around a couple of years ago, until it finally found its way to my Steam discovery. The game absolutely goes ham on catering to our nostalgia, with the game even being locked at a 4:3 aspect ratio and even has CRT filters to simulate that old school television feel. While the game's graphics look absolutely amazing, not gonna lie, after playing, my eyes were strained and dry as hell. In hindsight, I probably should have disabled the filters, cause aside from almost blinding myself, the scanlines also look like shit in the recording. But it is what it is, and I went through it, and so should you. As a kart-based racing game, Nightmare Kart does an amazing job at implementing its familiar mechanics. It's got the iconic drifting mechanics along with a speed boost system, diverse pickups for that additional chaos, these launch pads that let you know you suck at the controls, and most importantly, one map to loathe them all. Because god, I really hate this map. While the basic controls are pretty straightforward, I should also mention that the game also has some pretty nifty hidden mechanics for the keen-eyed players. And because this is a kart-based game, of course it features a cast of interesting characters. We even have Count Olaf on wheels. Like, look at this goofy ass and tell me it's not interesting. While the game only has 8 racing maps, I actually found this quite adequate. 8 maps is enough to have a good few hours of fun messing around with the different characters. But aside from the maps and characters, the game also adds more variation via power-ups or pickups that contribute to an exciting degree of chaos during races. You can pick up things like guns, melee weapons, traps, and even consumables. Guns and melee pickups are pretty straightforward. They hit an enemy, damage them, and maybe even cause them to stagger. And the traps are for the religious folk because you're gonna have to pray that it actually does anything. Finally, consumables are power-ups that give you positive effects that can give you that slight edge during a race. I can't really comment if the power-ups are balanced or not because I'm not really entirely sure either. But they definitely do their jobs, and you'll notice when you get absolutely pile-drivered by the enemy AI. While pickups are definitely helpful for winning races, it's not as important as learning how to drift and boost. Drifting in the game gives you these Aether Vials, and you're gonna need 5 of them for a small speed boost. It's pretty easy to neglect when you're just starting out, but having played the game for hours, I found that it's the most important aspect when racing. While the game's gameplay is definitely pretty solid, what I most appreciate are more of the little things. The tiny little bits of detail that the developers put into the game. The animators did a perfectly stellar job at giving each and every single character, well, character. Just look at the hunter's cloak as it glides through the air, not to mention Count Olaf in his normal-ass wheelchair, and even picking up weapons creates some goofy yet fun animations. The more I noticed these tiny details, the more memorable this game became. But it's not all good, as being an indie developed hobby of a game, it also has some downsides. The game also features a different game mode that focuses more on the killing rather than the racing. The game's free battle mode offers a twisted metal twist to the game. No pun intended. The mode turns the game into a vehicular carnage arena. Free battle takes place on a different version of the race maps that are more tailored for its particularly different gameplay. The mode also offers 6 different sub-game types. While having variations is much appreciated, playing any sub-game mode of free battle felt almost like I was playing the exact same mode anyway. Okay, I love Twisted Metal, but this game mode just isn't for me. I feel like the game's core mechanics just gets too clunky in arena maps compared to the race maps. And I honestly think that this game mode is by far the weakest part of this game. That's probably just me, so don't let me discourage you into having fun in this game mode. And that's not all this tiny little game has. This game is only 290 megabytes, which is already astronomically smaller than this video, but it somehow manages to have so much more depth than the shit I make. And most of that depth comes from an entire fucking campaign mode complete with a story, cinematics, and even voice acting.
I am Herman.
It's freaking nuts! The campaign starts you off with a tutorial to help you figure out what the hell you're supposed to be pressing. I kind of started with the free race and free battle modes before going through the campaign, so I missed out on a few mechanics during my first few hours. Nevertheless, the brief tutorial does a pretty good job at introducing the game's controls and core mechanics. Most of the campaign levels play out how you'd expect in a kart racing game, but that's really not all there is to it. There's also these simple yet amazingly badass boss fights that I really don't want to spoil. Except for this one. This boss was the most annoying son of a bitch in this entire game. I spent minutes just trying to chase this son of a bitch around, but no matter how fast I go, he's just somehow always faster. So I thought, aha, maybe I should cut him off. That should do the trick, right? And this bitch started running the other way. So never mind that, maybe I really just have to chase him until I get full boost and finally touch him. It took me way too long to realize that this wasn't a racing type of boss fight, but in fact a puzzle type boss fight. And apparently I had to lure this son of a bitch here to actually start damaging it. But that's not even the most annoying part, it's this shit! Although I've been glazing the game way too much since the start of this video, I should note that the campaign only takes about 2 to 3 hours to beat, maybe even less if you aren't as stupid as I am. So for the gamers who are looking for a long-term commitment would probably feel dejected from even trying this game out, but it at least tries a little bit in extending the game's lifespan by having a New Game Plus to its campaign. But I haven't really played New Game Plus yet as of making this video, so for those of you who are insane enough to have kept searching for the end of the rainbow, do let me know what you found down in the comments. Playing the campaign also lets you unlock everything else that the game lets you play with, mostly just additional drivers and some goofy ass vehicles. And aside from that, Nightmare Kart also features local co-op. I haven't tried it, but I'm assuming it's going to be an up to 4-player split-screen multiplayer. As of making this video, there is no online play yet, but the best part of this game is the campaign anyway. Lastly, I just want to say that I really fucking love this game, and I think a lot of other people do too. I really appreciate the amount of work put into this game by the talented people behind it. They did a great job with the music, the voice acting is superb, the animations are amazing, and most of all, the game is an absolute blast to play. Considering that this game is made by yet another furry, we should probably start handing the video game industry to them so we can get absolute bangers like this one every season. Oh, and did I mention that this game is also absolutely free as fuck?